Anita, how's your mental health?
Questionable at all times. You know this.
Yeah, how's the mental health of your children?
Also a little bit tricky. Can I tell you my experience in trying to find therapists for myself and my kids, Mel?
Yes, please.
Okay, this is how it goes. You ask around your friends and your family for a referral for somebody who's nearby. You finally find somebody who sounds like they might work for your family. You give them a call and you find out that A, they're not accepting new patients, or B, they have a huge wait list. So you start over again and you ask people if they know anybody who would be a good therapist and a good fit. Finally, you find one, you go and you meet with them and you figure out that you don't actually like them that much. But it's been so much work to find somebody who you can go to in your area that you're kind of stuck with them. Well, do you have any ideas for how to get around this?
I do, because guess what? I've actually had some therapists that I have found on my own, which involves what you're saying. Sometimes I remember one time I was like 3 hours in the bathtub on my phone looking through websites. I was such a prune at the end. But I have also had the experience with working with BetterHelp. And it was like, I don't want to say too good to be true, but because it is true, but it's like amazing because I was matched with my therapist within 24 hours.
And you didn't have to go through all of that other ridiculous process of trying to find somebody. And here's the cool thing too, is if that person didn't work out for you, you can just switch and say, and it's not like you're committing to another years long search for somebody who you're going to jive with.
It's true. And I lucked out, or maybe just BetterHelp is really good at matching people together because I never had to change my therapist. I loved her. Perfect fit for me. And I know that some of our friends have used BetterHelp and they've had to change therapists, and boom, same day, you can change.
Easy peasy.
You can ghost your therapist. Get a new one.
I love this idea. BetterHelp is one of our sponsors. If you use our promo code trybetterhelp.com/WWDN, you get 10% off your first month. And we totally recommend it.
Yes. Get some therapy. That's trybetterhelp.com/WWDN. Well, Anita, remember that one time when we were recording this intro last night and my power went out for 12 hours?
Yes, I do remember that. So let's start this and try again. Hey, Mel.
Hi, Anita.
We had a busy week last week, and it's been a busy day for us today as well. So do you want to tell us what we've done this week or last week?
Okay, last week we went to a meeting of a cult. And they didn't even get our email. So we're kind of stoked about that. We just wanted to see what happened at this meeting. And it was a multi-level marketing vitamin company.
Yeah, but they gave us really, really cheap tickets to a water park. And Mel has been like, if you go to a water park, you have to take me with you. And so we went and we sampled some of the fares, but we did not become consultants to this company. So I feel like we got out pretty well.
Yeah, except for I think that they probably have a tracking device in the supplements that they gave us for free.
Probably.
So we might not actually have gotten out scot-free.
We'll see. I think I probably will get a Facebook message.
Wow.
I think I'll probably get a Facebook message in the next few days. So we'll see. We'll see how scot-free we got. Scot-free.
I've been doing EMDR again, and I am remembering that one of my coping mechanisms is buying shoes and now roller skates. So I maybe have 3 extra pairs that I should not have bought. Anybody doing EMDR or therapy, just watch your impulse control.
Yeah, maybe don't have your credit card number. I asked you if I needed to take your credit card, and you're like, I have the number memorized. I was like, it's all over.
And now your phone does it for you, the autofill. Mm-hmm. And I'm just like, who cares? You live once. Like, people die. And like, I'm living here now. Get the things. So I'm actually conflicted on it. You know what? I could have went and got cocaine. I did not.
Yeah, this is true. I always said to Jason, it was my motto, it's better than meth, for anything that I wanted to do that he wasn't on board with. Any sort of like habits I had or things that annoyed him. I feel like it's a pretty good motto. Like, it's better than meth.
Yeah. What was your week like in addition to my roller skate purchases?
Well, we went roller skating together a couple times. Was it a couple times? Yeah, we did.
Yeah. You guys, we're starting a widow skate crew out here in Utah. So if you're ever passing through, come on.
And Mel has some extra skates.
Yeah.
You're a size what, 8.5?
8.5. Yeah, if your foot size is between 8 and 8.5, you can rent mine for free. And I have 3 extra pair, so that's 3 widows.
Yeah. Last week was also the first week of school for my kids. So we made it through that first week, and my brain is super scrambled, and they leave at different times. And when they come home, I'm always so surprised. I'm like, what are you doing here? Because they come back at different times also. And I don't know, we're going to hopefully get into a groove there, but it's really nice when they're not at home all the time.
Yeah.
Don't tell them.
Okay. I mean, I'm pretty sure they know. You
I
probably
think so,
tell
too.
them.
Yeah, I probably do. So, and then today we had a really fun experience, did we not, Mel?
We sure did. Today was our first time talking to grief civilians about widowhood in a presentation or presentation, however you say it. And we went to a university and discussed it. What did you think?
Yeah, we talked about death and dying and grief with them. Hopefully they're not too traumatized and they will take some of our advice and heed it. But I don't know.
You know, it was
I thought
interesting.
it went well.
It was interesting because I think what it does is it promotes a conversation with other people who have trauma and experience trauma. And one person came up to us after class that had been dealing with identity issues for themselves, and we are complete strangers, and the person was so comfortable with us, and we were just these random strangers.
And somebody who is having problems with miscarriages.
Yeah,
too.
so it was interesting because there were things in our stories and in the grief process and healing process that resonated with others. So if you're ever feeling afraid to share your story, just know it might help someone else, and maybe be open to it. Or don't. It's fine. Go buy some skates.
You do you, and we'll do us. Mel, we need to do the Patreon shout out, but guess what? Last night when the power went out and you were just gone, I got a friend to help me. So we're going to do the Patreon shout out. And if you want to keep the podcast going, then you should join our Patreon. It's a way to keep content creators creating content like podcasts. And it's patreon.com/WWDN.
And before we get to that, if you would like to buy us tacos, you can go to buymeacoffee.com/widowwedonoww. And remember, we have an app in the App Store. It's free. It's in both app stores, iOS and Android. And in addition to all of the stuff we mention all the time, it has meditation music in there. So go get it. It's free. Who cares? Now, it was so funny last night when we were recording this because we seriously got all the way done with whatever we were talking about. And we're like, and now our Patreon shout out. And everything around me went dark. Everything was gone.
Do you think it was the construction people?
I don't know, because it was a Sunday. They did say that there was like some damage with equipment, but maybe something frayed. But anyway, it was out on our whole street. So thanks to everyone for waiting an extra day for this one to come out. If you're not listening as these come out, you don't even know what we're talking about. So it's all good.
Yep.
Now, here we go with the Patreon shout out.
Da, da, da.
So I'm actually being in the podcast?
Yeah. First, we're going to start with don't touch that, our secret dead husband. And to her, we say, I'm sitting on the dock of the widow, watching the widows roll away. Next, we have
Constance
Dahlbeck. Good job. David Kelly.
Dawn Satterwhite.
Emily Wesenberg.
Gail Bell.
Ivan the Misner.
Kat.
Krista Waite.
Maya Glasser.
Neil Hooper.
Sam Finlayson.
Amber Alanes Vela.
Amy Hartman Martella.
Amy Neal.
Ashley Hahn.
Barbara Schneeberger.
Brandy Younger.
Brittany Pedro.
Chris Steffen.
Christina Shiflett.
Cindy Wilkerson.
Danielle Catterberg.
Natty Demi Downer.
Dennis Brazo.
Jane Maurice Massey.
Jenny Taylor.
Jennifer Beal.
Jennifer Brown.
Jenny Wing.
Jesse Johnson.
Carol Schultz.
Kelly Ford.
Kirsten Stromberg. Clausen.
Good job. Laura Aguirre Penner.
Lauren Old.
Lou Clausen.
Auntie Marie Hoffman.
Mary Catherine Anderson.
Patricia Reese.
Rachel Barbosa.
Sarah Morris.
Simone Fu.
Sunshine Haven.
Sylvia Shore.
Taylor Snyder.
Karen Cornejo. I have your adoptee right here, Karen.
Ann Drennan.
Hi, Ann. Welcome. Anna Tracy.
Christy Sambato.
Pretty close, pretty close. Christine Anderson.
Oh. Cindy Raynaud.
Connie Remich.
Dawn Barber.
Debbie Fells.
Deborah Westwood.
Diana Becker.
Emily Delito.
Eric Vandermeulen.
Aaron Posick.
Gabe Lozano.
Gia Benoit.
Gina Haas.
Ian Saney.
Ian Sini. Ileana Bell Ruiz.
Jackie Coyle.
You know her. Jane. Another secret patron.
Patron Jennifer Davis.
Jenny Armstrong.
Jenny Barrow.
Jocelyn Milo.
Julie Stevenson.
Karina Jacobo.
Kathy Murray.
Katie Getz.
Katie Ratcliffe.
Kara Scara.
Kevin Ferry.
Judy Malkin.
Chris Morgan.
Lara Keeley. Oh no!
Lindsay Kanopka. What's oh no?
You got to say Kanopka, and that's our favorite one to say.
What's oh no?
But you got to say it and not me. Lori Farrington.
Marjorie Lewis.
Oh. Marianne Hammond.
Mary McGowan.
Stand up. Megan Montague.
Melissa Bowers.
Melissa Hancock.
Missy Schubert.
Naomi Brown.
Peter Rugavina.
Rebecca Olemacher.
Becky Ziba.
Robin Flam.
Stacy Sayward.
Tammy Terravest.
Tara Wallace.
Trenton Thompson.
Val Packer.
And finally, we have kindergarten teacher Wendy. Thank you to everybody who supports us on Patreon, and thank you to my 5-year-old guest who really struggled to sit here for that whole time. Well, Mel, I guess we'll get to the episode since you don't exist right now. If you don't have any objections. I'm Anita. And we're just two young widows trying to help you guys figure out and help us figure out widow do. Well, Mel, we have an exciting guest today. Are you ready for it?
Yes, and I even know how to say her name.
Okay, well, why don't you welcome our guest since you are confident you're going to get it right?
I'm going to totally get it right. Everybody welcome Clarissa Moll.
Hi, Clarissa.
Hi. Thanks so much for having me.
We're excited to be able to talk to you. Now, sometimes I think in my brain that your head is Moll Clarissa because that's how you are on Instagram, right?
That's right.
Wouldn't it be weird if your first name was Moll?
Well, it's like Molly.
Yeah, Molly's
Yeah.
normal, but Moll would be weird.
Well,
Sorry if your name is
Clarissa Moll on Instagram is a little skanky. So,
Is it?
Yes.
yeah.
Totally going to check it out now.
Yeah.
Clarissa, where are you joining us from?
I'm in Boston.
Cool.
Oh,
Yeah.
so you're on the East Coast.
Mhm.
Excellent.
Yeah.
Are you from there?
I am. I'm originally from New Hampshire, but after I left for college, I didn't come back. So I haven't lived in the area in 25 years and just came back here right before my husband died.
Oh,
Yeah.
perfect. I mean, the moving part is fine.
Yeah.
The husband dying part, not so fine. So, I want to tell you a little funny, I don't know if it's funny, thing. I was scrolling through Instagram one day, and your husband, you had a picture of your husband. And without my brain even thinking, I thought, there's Rob. And I knew who your husband was, and I find that I have that a lot. Like, I hold a lot of people's dead husbands in my brain, and I know who they are, and I know a lot about them, and it's kind of a bizarre situation. I've never met any of these people while they were alive, but I know them now that they're dead.
Wait, so you were already Instagram friends with Clarissa?
Yes, I follow Clarissa. Yes.
I
yes,
was going to say, did you know him from bike riding or something when he was
No.
alive? Okay,
Just
now
from
I get it.
Instagram, just from following and reading along with her stories and things like that. So I don't know if that makes you feel happy, sad, weirded out, or what, Clarissa.
Well, I don't know. I guess I think it's actually kind of cool. Like, when your person dies, you worry that they'll be forgotten and that you'll be the only one who holds on to memories of them. And I really actually kind of like it that even people that I've never met in real life sort of know him, just because of the way that I've talked about him. And I don't know, it keeps him alive for me in a different kind of way, I guess.
Yeah, I feel the same way. So if people know Jason, I'm like, good, because that is a big fear of mine, or was a big fear. I don't fear it as much anymore. Was just like, people are going to forget him. People aren't going to know him. And it is true, because the people who come into your life after they died can't really get to know them, even though sort of that's the only way I know him. But anyway, I digress.
So tell us about Rob, Clarissa.
Yeah. Oh, that's like my favorite question. So he was considered a Clydesdale runner.
I know what that is.
You know what that is.
I don't. Tell me.
He was a tall and husky guy, and I fell madly in love with him. We got engaged 6 months after we met. 9 months later, we were married. And it was just like whirlwind, young 20s marriage. Didn't know any better. And it was 17 years of awesomeness. Of course, lots of messy moments in between, but overall, really great marriage. He was a writer. He was a journalist. He worked in corporate communications. He authored 2 books. And so our whole life was kind of intertwined together career-wise, because I was a writer and editor for nonprofits too. So for all those years of our marriage, we would work on projects together. He'd read stuff I was writing. I'd read stuff he was writing. And it was a really cool partnership. I know a lot of people, they don't know exactly what their partner does when they go to the office, but I knew really well. And I think that just enhanced the intimacy of our marriage. Rob was the person who laughed the loudest in the room. He would bang the table when he laughed. And when I first met him, I found that really embarrassing, because I was this reserved New Englander, and that kind of boisterousness just sort of set me on edge. But over time, I just realized, like, that's how he lived. He was lavish. He was a lavish gift giver. He was a hugger. He was not afraid to live big. And I appreciated that about him. It kind of drew me out of my shell in a lot of ways. And I think in his passing, it has made me want to be more like him, I guess, in some ways, to live a little bit bolder than I did before.
That's so funny that you say that he laughed so loud, because my husband Scott did the same thing and was a good gift giver. And I was so embarrassed. I was like, I don't know him. Like, would be at a Broadway show and he's like, ah, 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 ah. I'm like, I don't know that guy.
Yes.
But then, like, he was known for the laugh, and that, like, really draws people in around him, even though it's, like, loud and annoying. Sorry, Scott and Rob and Jason.
Just for the record, Jason was not a good gift giver. He gave some of the worst gifts. That was not one of his strengths. But laughing and living loud and boldly, yes. Yes to all of those things.
What was the best gift he gave you that was the most lavish? Or if you can't just pick one, you can pick several.
Well, best and most lavish didn't go together, actually. The most lavish gift he ever gave me was a KitchenAid mixer when we were brand new married and totally penniless. And I hate to cook. I am a terrible cook. I just ordered pizza for my kids tonight because I was like, it's 5:30 and I don't know what we're eating. So yeah, he would, he must have had some great vision for what I was capable of, because he bought this gigantic KitchenAid mixer, and, we moved it every single place we moved.
Did you ever use it?
On occasion, as a cursory, as sort of a token, like, oh, I hate to see this collecting dust. Let's wipe it down and use it to make cookies. So it never fulfilled the purpose I think he hoped for it to fulfill, but it was an incredibly lavish gift. So, yeah.
Well, now I want to know the best gift.
Ooh, the best gift. When we were dating, he gave me a book of Shakespeare's sonnets. I really like that. He was kind of a literati guy. And so that was a really good gift. And then I think the very best gift that he gave me was a letter he wrote to me on Valentine's Day, the year that he died. He wrote, I had told him, like, I don't need a gift. I'm a words of affirmation person. Just tell me I'm doing a good job, because I'm a stay-at-home mom. I'm homeschooling my kids, and I feel like I'm wearing sweatpants a lot of the time, figuratively and literally. And he sent me an email talking about how he admired my ferocity.
Wow.
And I think that was, even before he died, that was the most meaningful gift that he ever gave me.
You were wise and you didn't even know it, because I bet you go back to that letter in your times of like, I am sucking. This is the worst. I hate this. And you get to read those words.
I do.
And he's like, you're a fierce tiger woman, crazy, excellent person.
Yeah.
Sure, that's how he said it.
So Rob sounds awesome and fun. What in the world happened?
So we were on a family vacation. We had moved from Seattle, where we'd lived for 7 years, to Boston for a job for him. And we planned a cross-country road trip as a way of kind of getting back west where we wanted to be and seeing old friends again. And the pinnacle, the capstone of that trip for him was going to be a long, day-long ridgeline hike in Mount Rainier National Park. And he was a conscientious hiker. He hiked in the backcountry a lot. He was familiar with, all the rights and wrongs of doing this sort of thing. But he and his partner set out that morning, and I didn't get a call back when he was supposed to be back at the trailhead. And it's because he had fallen to his death that day. He slipped and fell. It was totally accidental. There's, no one at fault. But he was in the backcountry for a few hours. They had to airlift him out, and two chaplains arrived at my campsite that night from the local police department to tell me that he was dead.
Was his hiking partner okay?
Yes.
So you weren't with him. You were back at the campsite with, how many kids do you have?
I've got 4 kids. And,
Okay.
When you don't know, when you sense something's wrong, but you don't, but you got to still be the mom. The whole, from about, say 3:00 until 7:30 when the chaplains arrived, it was like, it's all good, guys. Let's go out and have some dinner at a restaurant. Let's go clean up the camper, trying to distract yourself as much as distract them from being concerned about anything, because your head goes to catastrophe, right? But there at the same time, there's your frontal lobe being like, be the adult. Things like this don't happen all the time. He's probably okay. His phone has died. So yeah, there's this sort of mental inner war going on. But yeah, I mean, all of my worst fears were true.
Sometimes we assume that unless we had a huge life insurance payout, we don't really need to know anything about investments or even finances. But guess what? A little knowledge of finances is critical for all of us. Maybe your partner was in charge of that stuff, and now you find yourself making all the decisions. Maybe you're mad about that. Maybe I am. Nicole from the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast is here to help. She tackles financial literacy by telling the stories of women and widows and finance experts, and shares the lessons they've learned as certified financial planners. Whether you know a lot and feel confident in your financial decisions or feel unsure about all of that stuff, there is more to learn. Listen and subscribe to the He's Gone But the Money's Not podcast on all podcast platforms. This ad was paid for by Rockhouse Financial, an SEC registered investment advisor. Man, so a question for you. I was just thinking about the logistics of this situation. You're not at home. You're not where you're supposed to be. And the friend didn't call you either. Did they instruct him that he should not get in contact with you? And did he let them know where to find you?
Yeah, I'm not sure how. I didn't ask those questions. His hiking partner is a dear family friend of ours, and just out of honor for his story and the trauma that was a part of his experience, I didn't ask those questions. And I've had conversations since then, but I'm really cautious about how I even go about that because I wasn't there, because I didn't endure the kind of visceral experience that was a part of being there when he died. That I just try to honor that as mystery in my own life. Um, I know that because we care for each other as family friends, that I know that there's an openness, if my kids ever wanted to know more. But I just know how my own brain goes, that there's this sort of logic piece that wants to engage, like, okay, how did it happen? Is there some way that this could have been prevented? And, you can do all kinds of mental iterations in your head for how we could have stopped this horrible thing from happening. But the reality is, I know all the facts from the National Park Service ranger and from his hiking partner, that this was not preventable, and I have to let it be, what it is. So yeah, I don't know if that answers your question.
What year was this?
2019. So so in July 19th, it will be 3 years.
It's just interesting because some of your story and my story have similar elements. Not a lot of really similar elements, but somebody that I know was with Jason, and she was told by the police she was trying to call me, and they said, you cannot call her. Mm-hmm. And finally she did call me and did what they didn't want her to do. But I had this voracious need afterwards to piece together who knew what when. And you're kind of explaining it, but you seemed to have a little bit more control and I don't know if control's the right word, but the ability to just let it be a mystery. Whereas I was just like, no, I need to figure out. And she actually wrote down the whole night for me, which I found incredibly helpful. Like, we didn't have to talk face to face about it, but so I know what his final words were, and I know, what was happening right before he got out of the pool and things like that, which has been very helpful to me. But I think it's cool that you are able to just say, like, this is not something I can change. And I honor that guy went through a serious trauma, and I don't need to add to that.
Yeah. And I mean, I received the same kind of information, a letter, and we've had follow-up conversations. But there was this piece of wisdom that the chaplains gave me that night when they gave me the news. The first thing I said to them, of course, was, do I have to tell my kids? Because, even though I've had grandparents die, everything I basically knew about dying was from movies, right? Where some catastrophe happens, you got to go and identify the body. You go into this dimly lit room in a morgue, the kind of that sort of drama piece of it. And I had no idea exactly what I was supposed to do next. And the chaplain said, no, it's our job to tell your children, we're here to be the bad guys. You are here to be the good guy always. And I feel like that was a huge gift to me, because it set me and my children on this trajectory where we were never separated by information. My kids know everything that I know. I have withheld nothing from them. And they know the things that I've chosen not to know. They know how to access it. But I think it began with that conversation of, like, this is your role here. Your role is to be mama bear. Your role is to be comforter. And it's our role. We will take the hit for you. And I just feel like that was a huge treasure to receive that information at the beginning.
That's amazing, because we've talked to a lot of people and I don't think we've really heard that very often. Anita, are you like slightly jealous that didn't happen for you? Jealous is the dumbest word in this situation, but
that was, I don't even know how to, I don't even, like, that's such a foreign
widow jealous
idea from the experience that I had. I don't, in the moment I would have loved that, but I don't know if now I would have given that up. So I think that's one of those, like, it happens how it needs to happen kind of a situation, maybe. Yeah.
What ages were your kids at the time?
My daughter had just turned 7. I had a 10-year-old, a 12-year-old, and a 14-year-old.
So now you're Were you on the end of your road trip or the beginning of your road trip?
We were smack dab in the middle of it. We were supposed to head the next day to Glacier National Park. And of course, that plan was entirely derailed. So yeah, I ended up staying out in the Seattle area for a month. Rob had wanted to be buried out in the mountains. Anyways, we had talked about that years ago. And so when we were living out there, and so it was right to have him buried there, and I needed that space of at least a month to be able to kind of get functional again, because I mean, I was in physiological shock, wasn't eating, wasn't sleeping, all of those things that are so much a part of catastrophic loss. And I don't think I could have, I mean, I got on a plane to fly home and I was medicated. So I don't think I could have even made it to the airport if I hadn't waited a little while to start to come to terms with it, at least in a physical sense, even though, of course, it takes years for you to really wrap your head around it.
So you had just moved back to the East Coast. You had been living in Washington. So did you fly to Washington and then you were going to drive home back to New England? Or did you drive to Washington and explain? I'm so sorry.
So yeah. So we lived in Seattle for 7 years. And a year before Rob's death, we moved out to Boston. He had been, what do you call that? Hyper commuting, or like flying out, 1 week, 2 weeks a month to Boston. And we were like, this is too much. We're going to just move there. And my family is local, so it seemed like the right choice. But a year later, we were still really homesick for Seattle. We wanted to go back. So we took our camper. We had a 24-foot camper, and we went through Idaho and, saw all this stuff, and we're having a great time. But in the end, I had my camper shipped back to Chicago, and I flew to Chicago after his death with my kids and a friend. And then I drove the last 1,000 miles of our road trip home alone with my kids in my camper.
Wow.
Why Chicago? Why did you just not ship it back all the way home? Just out of curiosity.
Because Rob's family was from Chicago. And so there was family there to meet us. Yeah. But I really needed to take that last 1,000 miles of driving by myself. It felt like, my kids would say, they felt like they'd been robbed of a vacation. And of course, it had been the worst vacation in the history of vacations. But I think it was also just a way of returning to something that felt normal. We had traveled 8,000 miles in our camper the previous summer. We had traveled almost 14,000 miles the summer before that. Because we homeschooled and my husband telecommuted, we could school on the road. And so we did that. So going back to the camper felt like coming back to a normal rhythm for us. So even though it was incredibly hard, it just felt like something I needed to do. And, when you're in that place, you just do whatever you feel like you need to do. And I was really grateful that I had family and friends who were supportive of that.
Are you able to use the camper now?
I sold it. I took it out a couple times in the first year after he died, but we'd be okay during the day. But when it got dark at night and we were all lying in there, it was just too much. It just felt really heavy. And so when mice got in it one winter, I was like, it's a sign. It's a sign from the gods. Time to get rid of this.
The mice gods.
Yes.
Oh.
Wow. Okay, so you homeschool your kids. You can basically work from anywhere. Did you continue doing that after he died? What's your life looked like since then?
Yeah, well, 8 months after he died, the pandemic started. So, everybody was homeschooling then. Sure. But since then, my kids have gone to school. This was their first year of attending school, and they love it, and it's good for them. And it's good for me, too. I did not realize, I realized pretty quickly I couldn't do all the things, but it's really hard to let go of so many places in your life. And homeschooling, we'd done it for 9 years. It felt like a part of our identity. We really liked the freedom to travel that it offered and the flexibility. But I had to admit to myself, like, this has got to go. And it was amazing how though it was really difficult, it was incredibly freeing too. So now I write full time and my kids go to school and I love it for them and I love it for me. And, I can't say that my life is as awesome as I wish it was. I mean, that would just be sugar coated nonsense, but it's good. I mean, I could say that. And it's hard and it's good. And I guess I'm just kind of coming to an acceptance that that's the way it is.
I noticed when my husband died that my definition of what good meant changed. Will you tell us what good looks like for you?
That's a good question. Good means that my kids are safe and they're doing okay, that they are thriving at school, that they have friends, that they're not really burdened by anxiety or depression or their grief, that they can feel that forward motion that is so much a part of childhood. Like kids don't look back. Normal kids, if you will, quote unquote, they don't look back. They're always looking forward. And I want that for my kids again. And so I think when I see that, I'm like, okay, they're doing okay. That life is good. And I think for me, it's been more elemental. Like, am I healthy? Am I physically healthy? Can I exercise regularly without feeling like I've been run over by a bus? Do I eat normally? Do I sleep well? I don't have a whole lot of plans for my future, and because they were mostly destroyed. So for me, it's more just a general feeling of hopefulness. Like, that's a good day if I can wake up in the morning and feel good about what lies before me.
That's really good. I'm still working on trying to feel that.
So I'm curious. I want to know a little bit of information about your kids. You said the oldest one was 14?
Yes, almost. Yeah. 14, just about ready to turn 15.
15. And the youngest one was 7.
Mm-hmm.
Have you noticed a big difference in how those two ends of the spectrum have grieved? Has it been much different for you?
Yeah. And, over the past 3 years, I've seen all 4 of them go through major developmental changes. I mean, boys getting deeper voices and growing to be taller than me. And yeah, I mean, certainly the way that a little child grieves is so different. I had to accept that my youngest was just not going to feel sad in the way that I felt sad, or it wasn't going to look the way that I thought grief should look if you'd lost your father. And I determined pretty early on that I was just going to become a student of them. And it's something that we had done in homeschooling, where it was like, I wanted to know what they were interested in and I would help them figure it out. One year my daughter was really into canine anatomy and she wanted to be a vet. So I ordered her all these books about dog innards, and she, got her big craft paper and she drew out dog, anatomical drawings on her paper. And that was kind of just my posture in their education, was like, okay, who are you and how do you tick? And I want to help you do the things that you love. And I guess I just sort of took that into my experience with them parenting through grief, is like, okay, how do you do this? Oh, you don't seem to be bothered by going to a friend's birthday party. Okay, let's do it then. You're going to go to all the birthday parties, where I'd be like, I'm not going to any parties. I don't want to see anyone ever again. But I think just doing that sort of thing allowed me to be sensitive to the older one who needed more space and time and quiet and introspection, and the younger one who was just ready to jump with both feet into living life again.
I feel that also. I mean, my youngest was 2 when Jason died, and so this has just been life for him. He doesn't really have any of his own memories. And then I had a 5 and a 7-year-old. No, I didn't. I had a 5 and an 8-year-old and a 12-year-old. But it's just really interesting how the different ages have gone through grief in such different manners. And I almost feel it's like a ripoff because I'm like, how come I have to keep track of 4 of you doing this and you can't all just do it the same way? Because that's, can we all just get on the same page here? The answer is no. No, they're not going to be on the same page.
No. Not ever. No. And so when we have like, when we have Father's Day or Rob's birthday, I just sit at the dining room table and I'm like, so does anybody want to do anything for Dad's birthday? Does anyone want to do anything for Father's Day? And if everybody says no, I've learned, like, don't let it cut you to the quick. It doesn't mean that they don't miss him. It doesn't mean that they don't love him. This is just where they're at right now. And you can do something on your own. You don't have to do it with them. I think that's another piece of it is like, if you have kids and you've lost your person, you're grieving the same person. And so you assume that everything's got to be kind of tribal, right? Like all of us are going to grieve him the same way. And it hurts to see that they don't grieve him the way that I do. And, but it's also kind of a relief too, because it means that I can grieve him in whatever way I need. And that's really helpful too. It offers me some release to just be a hot mess if I need to be sometimes.
You have 4 kids. You've just moved back to, where you used to be from. How do you start life again? How do you figure out what life is going to be? How did you go about making a new life for yourself?
I heavily relied on family and friends. I think when I think back to sort of the first 6 months after Rob died, I have this mental picture of myself as a super elderly person who's being led along by people, like one person on either side. And they're like, okay, grandma, don't miss a step. Like that was me. I was grandma. I could hardly move and I could hardly point my feet forward. And I had these people who were holding me up literally in every way. My mom, I hate cooking. My mom brought me meals. She brought me so many meals. When people from my church brought meals and my kids loved it, but I had no appetite, my mom would go through the fridge and like remake things into meals, and put them in the freezer. Or, sometimes I would just be like, Mom, could you just take all the leftovers? Cause I can't look at Tupperwares. It was like, I'd open the fridge and I would see the leftovers of my entire life just sitting on the shelves. Like, I do not want to think about how I am left over. Like, this is horrible. And so I deeply relied on those people. I know that at the same time, I also pushed them away. I can acknowledge that now, that level of neediness really was abrasive for me. I prize capacity and capability, and I wanted to think that I could do all these things. I came back and I was like, I can still be the 4-H leader at the local club. I can do this. Death isn't going to hold me back. Well, I didn't even make it to the first meeting. Like, of course you can't do that. So a lot of it was just starting really, really small, cutting out almost everything in my schedule. I quit my job, my teaching job, and I sent my kids to school for the first time, and I sent them part-time. And then I just really relied on other people to help me make decisions until I felt like I could at least have my feet under me to start making some of them on my own.
I'm exhausted for you.
I'm exhausted for all widows, because I think your experience sounds really, really universal. I remember that, where it's like, I didn't even feel like I could make decisions. And I would tell my therapist and then close friends, I was like, something is wrong with my brain. You're going to have to be my brain until I get one back. And I didn't even know if I would ever get my brain back. Like, did it feel to you like this is just how it is now forever?
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I remember driving my kids to the school that they were attending part-time, and I got lost at an intersection, like on our commute to school. How does this happen? And just being like, I really don't know. Do I go to the left or the right? I was supposed to go straight. Like I have no idea where I even am. And some of that has gone away, but not all of it. My kids know that I can't handle a lot of noise now if I have to think. Like, if the electric guitar is playing and the dog is barking, you can't ask me if you can go to a movie on Friday night with your friend, because I'm just not going to be able to even hear you. I mean, it's not, the processing is just not going to happen. And I don't know, they're really kind with me, that I forget a lot of stuff. I have to write a lot of stuff down. And it's embarrassing sometimes. It's really embarrassing sometimes, but I don't know. I think we all try to act like we're too perfect, maybe. And I'm just more willing to acknowledge my weakness than I used to be.
I have agreed to so many things in those circumstances that I would not have agreed to otherwise.
Oh,
Mom,
yes.
can I go to the, and I'm like, yeah. I'm like, I have no idea what they said because people were screaming and there was toys all around. And then they're like, you said I could. I'm like, when did I say that? They're like, this day at this time. I'm like, crap. Well, you can't do it now.
They could just have lied to you also, because knowing
It's-
some of your children,
I
that
know,
may
it's
be
true.
a thing.
But I also think I just can't. I'm just like you. I just cannot deal with too much at once. Like my brain doesn't have as many channels anymore.
Yeah.
And we're all three sudden death widows. Like, we were not expecting this, and so it's interesting. I would be curious to know if some of the widows who had maybe a long-term death deal with something like that, because I know for me it's just like, I can't even, if I'm reading something and like say someone comes and starts talking to me, I'm like, I can't. It's like one thing at a time.
Yeah.
So it makes me feel better that it's not just me. And also I know that we all feel like, no, I should be able to do this and I should be able to manage everything, and I can't. So for those of you listening who feel like that, you are not alone. There are at least 3 of us that get it.
Absolutely. Oh, it's really hard.
So Clarissa, I noticed that you do some work with grief out there on the internet. Can you tell us about that?
Yeah. So I used to write for do PR and marketing for nonprofits, but after Rob died, I just couldn't get excited about it anymore. And I started writing for myself as a way of like processing his death. And I would send out an email every month to family and friends who were supporting us and just let them know, hey, we're still alive. This is what I'm learning about what it's like to be a weird young widow with children. And over time, people asked, like, can I forward this on to somebody? This was really helpful to me. And so I said, sure, that's fine. And but enough people did it that I started a blog as a way of just handling the logistics of like saying yes to people. Just go to the blog. It's okay. You can share this publicly. And it kind of grew from there. So I edited my husband's book that he had published in 2010, and his publisher reached out to me and asked if I would write an afterword. They wanted to republish it and as an expanded edition. So I did that, and it just began a conversation about writing that I had not really expected. But I got an agent, I got a book deal, and then I've got a book coming out on grief and how to grieve well and walk through it, and built this Instagram community that I really love. I know that when I first experienced my loss, I went straight to the internet. I think I probably found you, Anita, very, very quickly, because I was like, surely there's got to be somebody out there. All the widows I knew were old. I didn't know anyone who was young. And in fact, when I tried to join a local support group, the lady on the phone was like, I just want you to know that most of the people are going to be like 20 to 30 years older than you are. And I was at that place in my grief journey where I just couldn't deal with that. Like, we have nothing in common if you are 20 to 30 years older than I am. And of course, now, 3 years in, I'm like, you lost your loved one? Oh, let's be besties. This is great. But I didn't realize that at the time. And so I went to the internet and found people. And so that's why I hang out there now, as a way to just be like, hey, I'll talk about it. You want to talk about how hard it is, or how you want to grow after your loss? Let's do it together. Because I think that so many people gave to me that it's a gift to be able to give back to other people.
What are some of the things that you would say to people who come to you and say, I want to grow?
Well, the first thing I would say is that the science says that growth after loss is not just possible, it's probable. All contemporary grief grief support kind of ends with this really blows, and it's horrible, which is important. It's important to say that. It's important to not shoulder through. It's important to feel the depth of the agony of the loss that you've experienced. But there's also a ton of research from really well-respected scientists that say people get through this, not through it meaning like to the other side of your sorrow, but your body is made for resilience. Your mind is made for resilience. You can learn to carry this burden of grief in a way that doesn't utterly break you. And in fact, that strengthens your muscles to be able to live a life that you can say is really satisfying again. And I'm grateful for that research. When I found it, I just dug my claws into it and hung on for dear life. And so, yeah, I believe that it's possible for anybody, even if it's super hard to get there.
Yeah, I think there's a time period right in the beginning where that kind of information feels, what's the right word?
Offensive.
Yes.
Yeah, where you're like, do not tell me I'm going to grow from this. Do not tell me this is going to make me a better person. Do not tell me that it's going to be for a reason.
Go away.
Or whatever. And then I feel like as you kind of grow into and through your grief, you come to a point where you think, okay, now I'm ready. Now I'm ready to believe that. And then it's like, okay, now I'm going to grab onto that. I'm going to see where I can go with it. And of course, you have all these times where you're thrown back on your heels again and you're like, nope, it's a lie. It's never going to be as good or maybe even better. And I'm with you. Like right now, I don't feel like my life is as good as it used to be, but I also feel content sometimes. And I do have a hope that at some point in time I will be more than content.
Yeah. And so, in my writing, you'll never hear me talk about there's a reason for your suffering. I think that is a mystery for all of us. If you want to assign meaning to your suffering, you can do that. Like if that's helpful for you to talk about a reason that you think this happened, you go ahead and do that. But I'm not gonna say there's a reason why this bad thing happened. Because that I think is just, we can't know those things. That's the posture that I take. And in a similar way, like, this is going to make you a better person. Oh, that is like getting, Tanya Harding, like, don't tell me that. That's the worst. I don't want to become a better person.
Olympics.
She did.
Especially from people who are not widows.
Yeah.
It's like doubly offensive. Like what Anita was saying is, for me, it's so true too, because I remember because my husband died, I guess will it be 5 years coming up? I think. Wow. And there was like nothing out there at the time. There were like 2 Instagram accounts. It wasn't like now. And we all know that widowhood is isolating. And so it's like, we don't know what's going to happen. You don't really know what is happening. And then you're like, I'm kind of all alone. And then you have somebody that comes along and tells you, which is why I think sometimes an 86-year-old widow is the wrong person to talk to. Oh, it's going to be fine. Well, it's like, yeah, you had like 70 years with your person when you got married at 9 years old. And so shut up, be quiet. And it's so true. It's like, so I remember part of me was kind of resisting anything that was like, you're going to be fine. And I'm like, shut up. And I can't wait till you go through this. I hope that your person dies. And I would think like mean thoughts like that, but it's true. So I love that you acknowledge that, and also are telling people that you get to assign the meaning if you want to. Nobody else can assign the meaning for you.
That's right. And nobody can coach you into being transformed by your grief either. Like that again is a choice. We have a choice and you see that in little griefs as well. Like your kid gets bullied at school and they're faced with a choice. Like, are they going to become embittered by this? And is the pain going to calcify them and harden them? Or is it going to break them open some way? Or is their experience of suffering going to make them more compassionate to others? Is it going to make them a better self-advocate? All of these things, we see this in little ways. But it's all about personal decision again. And it's not something that somebody can superimpose on you. It's something that you have to come to in your own place and time. And that's why, I'm all for feeling the feels as deeply as you need to feel them for as long as you need to feel them. Because if we try to truncate that process and push people toward transformation or meaning or reasons, we're gonna ruin what would be the natural flow that I'm convinced can happen if we give it the space and time it needs.
Would you even go so far as to say, and maybe this is going to be a dumb thing to say, but that grief in its own way is kind of like a beautiful natural process? It's like a forest fire. It's like something, kind of in that vein. It's awful, it's painful, and if you kind of allow it to do its thing, you come out of it and you've got all of this beauty and growth and learning, and you kind of don't want to get in the way of that process either and try and, like, I feel like other people, the goal is to guide people through it and not prescribe your way through it.
That's right. Yeah. And I mean, just the fact that we have the capacity as humans to grieve at all, is really amazing. You'll see on the news every once in a while, like the soldier who doesn't come home and his dog waits for him at the airport or waits at, the dog is grieving. We see this happening in animals and we're like, oh my gosh, this is so amazing. Why do we think it's amazing? Because who knows if ants grieve or, worms grieve or birds, like we don't see the universe having the capacity to do this all the time. And so I think it's magnificent that we have it, that we have the possibility of feeling so deeply. And so I'm all for deep diving into it and just, like you say, letting it have its way. And it wrecks everything. And then I think it also offers us new perspective and wisdom. And those things come over time, just like, a big river, it takes a long time to cut a canyon. There's a lot of ugly before there's any beauty.
Yeah, that's a great quote.
Yeah, that's true.
Oh man. And I think all of us would be like, but if I had a choice, could we not learn it this way? Could we learn it a different way? Like,
yes, please.
Yeah. Not how it goes. Clarissa, do you want to tell us a little bit about the name of your book, where people can find it?
Yeah.
That kind of information?
That'd be great. Yeah. My book is called Beyond the Darkness, A Gentle Guide for Living with Grief and Thriving After Loss. You can find it anywhere books are sold, or at my website, ClarissaMoll.com. And it's really the book that I was needing when Rob died. It's full of practical and honest grief support, coupled with some honesty about what I think is possible for us after our loved ones die, that we're not just left in a place of despair, in a slow spiral downward, but that there's light to be had, and that somehow you can learn to walk through life holding joy and sorrow in the same hand.
We will link to all of that in the show notes. Clarissa, thank you so much for joining us today. We have one final question for you. Are you ready?
Yes.
What's your favorite cheese? Hopefully you eat cheese. If not, it's okay. We have options.
I really like, does it count? Alouette dip?
Yes.
Oh, cheese?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's yum.
I would put that on anything. My favorite would be Alouette dip on Melba toast. My kids would be gagging right now.
Yeah.
Remember how you said you were like that old frail lady? You've just confirmed
you totally
it.
Yes.
You know what? You're owning it, and that's all that matters.
That's right.
FYI, she's not old and frail, so don't.
Actually, how old are you, Clarissa?
I'm 44.
See, there you go.
Not old. Not frail.
Not old.
Okay. Thank you so much for joining us today. We hope everybody listening has found something to hope for while we've been talking to Clarissa. It's been really fun to get to know a little bit more about your story. Make sure you check out the Widow Wives Club. It's our private Facebook community. Just make sure you answer all of the questions. It's for the safety of our group and for you. If you want to keep the podcast going, check out our Patreon. It's patreon.com/WWDN.
If you'd like to buy us tacos, go to buymeacoffee.com/widowwedonoww, and you can find all of this on our app in any app store.
And until we get to talk to you again, I'm Anita.
I'm Mel.
And I'm Clarissa.
And we are just two young widows and one frail 44-year-old Melba toast eating widow. And we're all just trying to figure out, widow,
We
do
now. This is my favorite thing to discuss with you.
tell me, what is it?
One of my favorite things. I do enjoy tacos and cheese and dogs. This is about how you cannot pay hundreds and hundreds of dollars for a phone plan, especially when you're a widow, your person is dead, you might have kids, you might need another option, and you just want your phone to work, you want unlimited texting and service, and you want it to be like $25 a month.
It blows my mind that they have plans that start at $15 a month. That is so cheap. And the cool thing is it uses other 5G networks, and so you don't have to pay extra for that, and you still get great service.
Yep, Anita and I have traveled all over, and I have used my phone. So I highly recommend it. And my mom's even on it. When my dad died, we put his phone down to the cheapest plan, which is $15 a month. And I think my mom's on the $20 a month plan, and it's so worth it. It's so much cheaper than what we were all paying before. So I highly recommend it. If you're on a budget or not, who cares? Ryan Reynolds is in charge of the company, and they send you free stickers with Ryan Reynolds temporary tattoos. It's kind of the best. So if somebody wants to sign up, what can they do, Anita?
Go to trymintmobile.com/WWDN. Seriously, you guys, such a great idea. Save yourself some money.
And if you're worried about losing data or having any changes with your phone, not going to happen. They walk you through it. Everything's fine. It's the easiest process of all time. Again, that's
trymintmobile.com/WWDN.